Managing players is a very difficult task for a number of coaches in the NBA, but definitely not to Ben Sullivan. He's proven to be an absolute monster in bringing out the best in players, and his statistics do not speak otherwise. Get to know the 35-year-old coach who is trying to fix Giannis Antetokounmpo's biggest weakness and make him a force to reckon with in the NBA world. The very beginning. Sullivan, who had no prior NBA experience, went from being a video intern with the San Antonio Spurs to being a well-loved and renowned shooting coach around the league. With Giannis, an MVP contender whose only weakness is shooting, Sullivan is now playing a vital role for the Bucks, aiding a club that makes more three-pointers than virtually anyone else in the league. When Ben Sullivan received a call from San Antonio Spurs assistant coach Ime Udoka in 2012, encouraging him to apply for the job, he had no idea what a video intern was. Udoka was familiar to Sullivan, who was at the time an assistant coach at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon. The NBA wasn't even on Sullivan's radar at the time, despite his desire to further his coaching career. "When I received the call, I didn't even know what that job was," Sullivan said. He informed Udoka that he would interview only out of moral obligation. Sullivan went over to his coaching colleagues and inquired about the post. "Everyone was telling me, you have to do that job. Right now," Sullivan said. "Do whatever it takes to acquire that job. Go grab it." At the age of 28, Sullivan had a job interview with the Spurs and was hired. Sullivan, who had previously played professional basketball outside of the United States, had little connections to the NBA. He had a career change as a result of the internship. 7 years later, Sullivan is still making an impression as an assistant coach with the Milwaukee Bucks. He is now at an intriguing crossroads with the Bucks, playing a crucial role as a shooting coach. The Bucks are an offensive juggernaut that depend more on three-point shooting than nearly any other team in the league. Giannis Antetokounmpo, their leader, is an MVP contender with only one flaw: he has trouble shooting. The Bucks have developed into one of the NBA's most dynamic teams with Sullivan's assistance. He is making an effort to assist them in moving forward. Sullivan's transformation. While playing with the Spurs, Sullivan had outstanding coaching experience, thanks to Greg Popovich, Mike Budenholzer, Brett Brown, Chad Forcier, Chip Engelland, and others. Iron sharpens iron, according to Forcier, who is currently an assistant coach with the Memphis Grizzlies. Doesn't matter if you're an intern or a coach, if you're in an environment working around talented, hardworking people who are really good at what they do and really know what they're doing, he said. Everyone improves as a result of it. Forcier and Engelland were in charge of managing the team's video intern program and were also in charge of allocating interns to certain coaches. Sullivan was hired by Engelland, who is considered as one of the top shooting instructors in the game. Sullivan talks of his 2 years with the Spurs as a whirlwind. While the Spurs made back-to-back finals appearances and won the title in 2013-14, he picked up all the ins and outs of the Spurs program, from routine jobs to helping with scouting reports, analytics, working one-on-one with players, and more. What's more important, he collaborated closely with Engelland. Sullivan credited Engelland as being the source of all of his coaching knowledge. "I took a lot from him. To be honest, I simply can't ever truly pay him back." And about the statement, Engelland remarked, "He simply observed, which is usually nice." Sullivan progressed from working as a video intern to becoming a player development coordinator. He made an impression on the Spurs staff, making him stand out in one of sports' most prestigious companies. He has consistently increased and shown his importance to the Spurs. He was clearly progressing in the correct path, as Forcier said. Budenholzer, who is now the head coach of the Bucks, remarked, "I believe he left a terrific impact on all of us. Just another one of those really good individuals that went through the Spurs video room." When Budenholzer took over as the Hawks head coach in 2013-14, he was so pleased with Sullivan that he invited him to an interview for an assistant coaching position. Budenholzer couldn't lure Engelland away from San Antonio, so he called Sullivan. He would hire the apprentice if he couldn't find the master. When Sullivan left the Spurs in 2014, Engelland remarked of him, "He was eager to help a head coach, help a squad, and help the players. And I'm sure he's improved." A new life, but same good story. In Atlanta, Sullivan's professional arc continued. He received acclaim for his efforts as the Hawks offense developed into one of the league's finest from seasoned players like Kent Bazemore and Kyle Korver. As his duties increased as an assistant coach, Sullivan continued to gain knowledge about the NBA. 3 years in a row, the Hawks qualified for the playoffs, but fell short against LeBron James's Cleveland Cavaliers. The Hawks and Budenholzer came to an agreement to split ways at the conclusion of the 2017-18 campaign. The Bucks hired Budenholzer as their head coach after he pitched a modernized offense and enhanced defense centered on the team's growing star, Giannis Antetokounmpo. A shooting coach was required, and Sullivan was available. The new coaching staff for the Bucks discussed the same concept often while on a summer vacation in Wisconsin. Give Antetokounmpo more room. When he goes downhill and attacks the rim, Giannis may be the most powerful player on the court. By spreading out the floor as much as possible, defenders would have a choice between letting Giannis feast at the basket or sending assistants and leaving open shooters. The Bucks already had a few shooters on the roster, but GM John Horst set about locating more. Ersan Ilyasova and Brook Lopez are two huge guys that can cover a lot of ground. He made in-season transactions for Nikola Mirotic, another sweet-shooting power player, and George Hill, a former Spur. Lopez and Mirotic are particularly good at deep threes made from a distance of several feet behind the line. Other than Antetokounmpo, Lopez could be the player who most exemplifies the Bucks' success that year. The 7-footer had transformed from a conventional back-to-the-basket center to one of the league's most deadly three-point shooters. The NBA statistics site shows that Lopez had attempted and made more three-pointers than any other player listed at 7 feet or higher. His 512 total attempts placed him first among Bucks players and 17th overall in the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo's weakness. The only weakness with Giannis is his jump shot. The biggest obstacle facing the Bucks and Sullivan is getting Antetokounmpo into that same space. Even though he is a great scorer, he struggles from beyond the arc, shooting just 25% on 3 tries a game. Not that he doesn't put a lot of effort into it. According to Sullivan, Antetokounmpo practices his shot as much as the rest of his game. In actuality, Antetokounmpo's commitment to excellence is what motivates Sullivan. This summer, Sullivan and Giannis started reshaping the 24-year-old star's shot. Sullivan believes that achieving a comfortable, steady motion is the key. The work Sullivan has done with the Greek star has included the skills he learned from England. Each person needs a shot that feels comfortable to them. According to Sullivan, Giannis finds it difficult to shoot like Steph Curry. You wouldn't want to try to replicate that shot. To acquire the finest photo for Giannis, myself and Giannis must collaborate. Sullivan said that Antetokounmpo's development has already left an impression on him. He thinks Giannis may someday develop into an elite shooter. He must now continue. Not only a shooting coach. Even with Antetokounmpo's poor shooting ability, the Bucks, as they now stand, could be good enough to win a championship. Sullivan observed that Giannis hasn't exactly slowed down due to his inability to leap. His point total is 27 per game. Teams aren't exactly allowing him to have 27 points, however. Although Sullivan and the Bucks face significant obstacles, they decide to maintain a focused approach. When Sullivan discusses the Spurs' objectives, it is clear that he has spent time with the squad. Working on our habits and growing as a team are what we are mostly focused on, according to Sullivan. I genuinely think that type of thing will take care of itself if you dig in and get in the trenches and you have the attitude of, I'm just going to try and take it day by day and become better every day, he said. Ben is simply more than a Giannis coach or a shooting coach, according to Horst. He's an assistant coach. He adds value to our whole product, Bud, and his team. He's a tremendously promising young coach, in my opinion, with a promising future. And sure, this praise is sung by everyone who has seen his coaching capabilities. He's absolutely world-class. When asked, Sullivan said he doesn't even think about his future in the NBA because he is still in awe of how successful he has been in the NBA. Will he continue to instruct shooters? Does he have any loftier goals? He admitted that during the off-seasons, those thoughts occasionally surface, but that he is goal-focused during the actual season. So what's your thought about this genius of a coach and his success so far in his coaching career? Let us know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.